Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. This is our fourth week of the Summer Innovation Series. And you guys, I think, are in for a treat with today's presentation. We have a lot of really good information that we want to roll out for you, and as well as lay out some time for questions. For those of you whose first week in the Summer Innovation Series, I do want to give you a little bit of information about what we're all about. So the Summer Innovation Series is a collaborative effort between the Ohio Apex Accelerator and Ohio Small Business Development Centers as an opportunity to present you all with resources for your research and development efforts. Lots of Ohio small businesses are engaged in a ton of different corners of the innovative landscape, and in that ecosystem are a plethora of small business resources to help supply funding, to provide a space for you to create some of those innovative products, turn those ideas into marketable, tangible results for your business. And again, this series is a 7-week webinar series that has a final in-person event. So I'll re-say that is 6 webinars and then 1 final in-person event. And with each of those is an opportunity for you to interface with subject matter experts and leaders across the federal, state, and local levels in terms of the small business resource innovation efforts therein. And for today's presentation, we have, again, a lot of really good information. To start, we will have Mr. Andy Leighty. He is here to talk today about the Air Force Research Labs and all of the different innovative resources that come therein. Andy Leighty is a procurement analyst, a acquisition specialist in Air Force Research Labs. So I think that's very interesting perspective that he could add to a lot of the small business contractors that are in the audience today. Additionally, we have Mr. Dan Gisser. Dan Gisser is a subject matter expert in all things U.S. Air Force SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, and he also is a dear colleague, an important piece of the Apex Accelerator Network in Northeast Ohio. Some of those in the audience today have probably already met Mr. Dan Gibber through your connection with Apex, and even still through his own consulting with Tillerline Associates. With that, I would like to go ahead and let you guys know that if you have any questions, please utilize the chat function and or the Q&A box there with both of these presentations and the information that comes from it. I'm hoping that you guys will have a lot of really good questions for us today. I will record these presentations as well as those from last week and weeks prior so that you can view them on YouTube and catch up on all the different things that we've talked about this summer. With that, I would like to again introduce Mr. Andy Leighty from Air Force Research Labs with his presentation.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to get this to full screen mode. Okay. How does that look? You looking good?
Great,
good.
yes, sir.
All right, very good. And I apologize, I don't have a camera on me. Otherwise, I would turn that on so you can all see me. But first thing to note here, I am not Chanel Foltz. My name is Andy Leighty. I am in contracting. I've spent the majority of my career as a contracting officer and then a section and branch chief within different contracting organizations. And recently I've been up at AFRL working at the headquarters in contracting in policy. So helping our executing contracting offices to know how to implement a quickly changing policy landscape with changes to regulation that's happening, to policy and executive orders. It's been an exciting year so far, and I'm glad to be with you all. I truly am. It is not an overstatement to say that without small business, there is no AFRL. There's no meaningful research for the DoD without the innovation of small business. So as a contracting professional, any chance that I get to have an audience like this, I'm glad to take it. So I will say for small business specific questions, I will probably direct you to the email that you're going to see later about how to interface with them. But I'm here to answer any questions regarding the acquisition process that I possibly can. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm briefing these on kind of behalf of small business. The small business office at the headquarters of AFRL, very important function within our center, because we need to be constantly looking to tie the innovation of small business to the AFRL mission set. And so the small business office is instrumental in that process. So their mission is to maximize initiative, cost-effective, and customer-focused small business solutions to maintain national security dominance through our air and space forces. And their vision is together AFRL and small businesses driving air and space force innovation and excellence. We are everywhere as a center. We are doing research and testing across the United States, in fact, across the world. You see our international sites there. Here in Ohio, knowing that this is kind of an Ohio-centric audience, you have a multitude of opportunities to get involved with the AFRL mission. You can see there the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base site, multiple labs dealing in a number of mission set areas. And really all over the country, we have the AFRL mission at work and our critical small business partners there along with us doing all these things. Organizationally, these are the technical areas that we have. We call them technical directorates. And each one of them represented a critical aspect of the Air Force mission, the DoD mission, and a research thrust area behind each one. So, like I said in the previous slide, 4 of these are right here at Wright-Pat. We have munitions are down at Eglin, directed energy at Kirtland, space vehicles also at Kirtland in New Mexico, information up at Rome. So we're kind of all over the nation, but a great deal of work being done here right at home in Ohio, here at Wright-Pat. And we have a number of research facilities across those directorates where we are hands-on, trying new things, looking at how we can take an idea, put it through its paces, and see if it's something that can be transferred to a weapon system for practical use. Okay, so AFRL small business, again, liaison's the right word. They are operating as a interface between industry and the AFRL requirement owners. Those people who are, government, military people put in a position to expand the horizon of a particular research area. And they want to know who's out there in industry that's going to help me do this. And small business is tasked with making those connections through outreach, through advocacy, through helping a business who perhaps their research and what they do is incredible, but on the how do I interface with the government part of the job, maybe they could use some assistance. And we, our objective is not to leave anyone out to dry. We want as many good players as we can. And if the how to do business with the government side of it is a roadblock, AFRL small business takes very seriously their mandate to break down those barriers so that we're getting the best and the brightest in terms of people and ideas. This is the small business team. Their director is Brian McJilton, and Chanel, who would have been briefing this if she weren't at an outreach function today, which is what she's doing. she's the deputy director, and then they have a number of folks who are small business professionals that are supporting particular regions. So I mentioned Rome and Kirtland and Eglin, and then also at AFOSR in Virginia, we have people who they manage those particular mission portfolios from a small business perspective, and then they partner with Small Business Administration, Apex Accelerators here, and GSA. I would say that I was told by Chanel you guys will get these slides, which is great, because there's frankly a lot of things in here that I would want to come back to were I a small business. So there's their email address for any general question you might have about interfacing with AFRL. This would be the email address you'd want to use and send that to. So kind of looking at our portfolio, we're doing $5.4 billion a year. As you might imagine, the majority of that is in R&D. The 28% services you see, what that really is predominantly are two things. It's A&AS support in support of the R&D and some IT service contracts that we also require to do our research, and a small amount of products that we're buying really to just kind of support the organization. Our mission is R&D, and so our budget goes to R&D and R&D support. And then if you look over there on the right, you can see our obligation as it relates to small business. Of that 5.4 billion, 2.2 goes to small business. Of that 2.2, we utilize heavily the SBIR-STTR program. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but we are doing, also about $1 billion of non-SBIR small business dollars in a given year too. So this slide, what it shows is when you're looking at bidding opportunities, these are the industry classifications that we're working in AFRL. So it's R&D, and we talk about it in terms of NAICS codes and PSC codes. NAICS codes describes the business, PSC codes describes the work itself. So we're doing business with companies with NAICS codes for professional, scientific, technical services, and national security, international affairs. Those are our big heavy hitters in terms of NAICS code certifications that we're doing business with. And then in terms of the work itself, it's national defense, other R&D, general science and technology. These are the codings for the work that we're doing. On the services side, as you might expect, professional and business services, telecommunications, those are those IT contracts, and then special trade contractors. These are typically the little bit of like construction contracts that we may have at, say, our facility in Rome, where they're not a tenant on a larger base, they are the facility themselves. So as a contracting unit, they are responsible for doing the research, yes, but also fixing potholes. They have to do it all. So that's why, from a services perspective, for really specifically that location, we have specialty trade and contractors. And then you can see the corresponding PSC codes. Category R, Category D, these are your non-R&D services, your A&AS support, and your IT services. And then that Category Z, there it is, the construction type work that you will see at in Rome, New York. So I like to think of AFRL and really the R&D infrastructure within DoD as a whole is sort of like a building with 1,000 doors, and we want it to be that way. The more opportunities we can have for interaction with industry, the better off we are. And each one of these doors, if you want to look at it that way, does a slightly different thing, comes from a slightly different focus area. We have within AFRL, AFRL Small Business Hub, and it says check out Collider events. These are particular training events that small business puts on for industry with particular focus areas. And if you go to the AFRL Small Business Hub website, you'll be able to see when those are scheduled and attend those. I would really suggest, if you're not engaged with this particular outreach, that you would do that. This is if you want to do work with AFRL, this is AFRL. So this is their small business engagement to industry. So check that one out. There's others too. Air Force Tech Connect. They have events and information they put out. AFRL regional networks that are kind of focused throughout the different spots in the United States. And then, of course, you get a lot of information just simply going to sam.gov and grants.gov in terms of what's available out there for bidding, what's coming up, and you can keep track on all that. Other opportunities and pathways to get into to government research market, defense innovation marketplace is one. The Department of Air Force technology transfer and transition, particularly with a mind towards taking research from kind of the fundamental to the implemented, transferred, and transitioned to weapon systems, are looking to make those kind of connections. And then we have the websites for the SBIR program and the AFWorks program, that is really the Air Force's implementation of SBIR-STTR. Okay, hacks decoding government and business codes. So on the left-hand column here, we have, these are identifying numbers and things that have to be taken care of before you can do business with the government. Any company looking to do business with us needs to have these things. So the UEI, the Unique Entity ID, you can get this through registration in sam.gov, and you'll come away after that process with a code that when you are bidding, you'll be able to enter your UEI. An EIN, of course, if you're part of a company, I would expect that you would have that at this point. And then a CAGE code. So commercial and government entity, it's an identifier, another identifier that is required to do work, at least with the DoD, I know that. So CAGE code is required there. And then, of course, we talked about NAICS codes and PSC codes. These are identifiers to describe the business and the industry that we're engaging in, the type of industry, and then a PSC code describes the product or the service with another code and associated definition. DODAC is a identifier for an organization, a physical place, typically. So this, like we use DODACs in our writing contracts to identify what office is issuing that contract. And then the DODAC's also used to identify where is the work taking place, where's the deliverable going to be. And so the DODAC numbers come into play there. Okay, so knowing how to use sam.gov is just very, very important. And we have here, now we're getting to the slides that I would say would be great to have for a small business. So I would encourage you to come back to these. You can see on the right a column that shows our various organizations, locations, and the associated DODACs. So like the right pad in particular, these are our DODACs for AFRL. They are associated with the different technical directorates that we have within AFRL, so different mission sets represents each one of those DODACs, and the contracting office that is issuing contracts. And if you wanted to know Are there any open solicitations at Wright Pat for these DODACs? You would take one, go to sam.gov, put it into your search bar, search for it, and it will take you to what is open and available. So in this case, AF2280 had 5 results. Now, I'll make a little contracting commentary here that maybe SB wasn't focused on per se, but this will show open solicitation opportunities. It will also show instances where we're making notifications of an award, which is the case in this first one here. You'll see where it says there's an awardee there, Dynetic Incorporated. And so we're letting industry know we've made this award. This wouldn't be something that you would bid on. But below it, if it weren't a screenshot, we might well see that there are open solicitations available, that a company who has works under the NAICS codes that are identified would be able to participate in that competition. Okay. So here are some specific upcoming industry interactions. Apparently the Life Cycle Industry Day is canceled, but they've got additional upcoming AFRL industry engagement events. I guess we'll focus in on that 8 October. Looks like a classified briefing at Wright Pat. And then the DaytonDefense.org will give information on that, on how to participate. Going out west, there's the PACA briefing with industry. That would be there at Kirtland, I expect. And then in Rome, we have an industry day, they call it Rome Reps, that's coming up October 7th, and the website there to get more information and to register if you're interested. And then there's other events. I won't read them all to you, but for each one, there's what the event is, when it's happening, and the website for more information and registration. Okay, so these are current AFRL solicitation announcements as of this month. And I love that they put this together and provided this in the slides. And like I said with the previous slide, I won't read through each and every one of these, but what you have here is the directorate under which the solicitation is issued, the type of announcement that it is, what it is for in terms of its title, and then how to get additional information for it. These links will take you to sam.gov, take you straight to the solicitation. And we've got this here for you for all of our open solicitations. So every one of these, the majority of them are BAAs, MAAs, multiple authority announcements. And what that means is that's a solicitation where we can really issue anything in terms of contracts, in terms of other transactions, which is a separate authority outside of the FAR. We can issue assistance grants. So BAAs are similar in that regard. Some of them are open BAAs, meaning that we have a research thrust area and we're accepting white papers for it. You can simply provide them in the open period. Some are closed where we'll issue calls, and when we issue a call, we're looking to get white papers back. Those kind of happen at certain points of time. But again, for each one, you can go to this additional information column and learn about how that particular solicitation vehicle operates. So I would consider this slide to be worth the price of admission right here, because it's got all our directorates and all of our open solicitations. And again, it's in our best interest to spread this information far and wide. We want everybody to be aware of what we have out on the street and available for people to participate. Okay, some parting recommendations then from the small business community, and I echo everyone. Build and maintain a customer relationship. Having a relationship with AFRL Small Business, if you are a research company, I would consider that extremely important. Play the long game. I suppose what she meant by that was in the course of those relationships, you will become increasingly aware of what AFRL is looking for, where our areas of interest are in terms of what the larger government and DoD is looking to do, and be able to watch our requirements kind of evolve as the needs of the nation from a defense perspective evolve. Know where the resources are for information. You got a ton of them in this briefing. Looking for where what you do and what we need aligns, and then getting connected, all these different interactive events. Now getting to stuff that I'm not more from a contracting perspective, I don't think about as much, but branding and impression, it does matter, because, and I'll say this, a lot of times some of your most important interactions is with the requirement owners, right? And they need to parse through and understand how what a company does and offers will meet what they need. That is very important. So in as much as your branding and your impression communicates those things, I will agree, quite important. And then talk about what you do, put it out into the public space, so that when we're from our end looking for companies who are going to meet our needs, we can find you, we can relate what you've done to what we need, and be able to make those connections. Very, very important. Okay. So I'm not familiar with this site, to be totally honest, but this is the SBA business search. You can go and you can look for, search for small businesses within this website, and the link to it is there at the bottom. Okay. Any questions regarding that briefing or anything else I can answer for you?
Thank you again, Andy. And of course, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and throw them in the chat here. Really appreciate your presentation here. And while waiting to see if there's anything that pops into the chat box here, I have a few questions myself. You highlighted a lot of resources here for small businesses that are interested in working with AFRL. And of all the outreach opportunities, of course, there is the information you listed in terms of the research through the solicitations themselves. For a small business that's brand new to working with the Air Force, what's the first step that you might recommend them taking?
Well, of course, getting registered in SAM.gov is a big one. That's just kind of the very, very first step. When you're looking for requirements, when you're looking for things that are going to match what you do, I mean, I've said it throughout the entire briefing, but it just couldn't be more true. Small business is the office that is specifically designed to make those connections. They are the ones that you want to reach out to, and the AFRL Small Business Hub is the place to make those connections with them. It is their job to take companies and find ways for them to be connected with requirements that they can meet. That would be my first and foremost, from an AFRL perspective, recommendation. The further removed you get from the requirement, I'm not saying that there's not value in other relationships and other points of interaction, but the specifics of what does that office need right now? What are the important areas in terms of research? The closer you can get to the executing offices, the closer you can get to the labs doing it, I would think the better you're going to get in terms of information and collaboration. And so with that in mind, I would say getting connected to our own AFRL folks would be the way to go.
Awesome. Thank you for that. You listed that the slide deck or the slide itself that has the information on the SAM.gov, the cage codes, that would probably be a good resource in terms of understanding what your business does and how you can represent yourself. And then from there, being able to reach out to that plethora of resources that lives within the small business office of AFRL. I love that. Thank you again for those two first steps there. We do have a question popped into the chat here.
Yeah.
You included a slide with your current requirements and projects, but can you give any insight into future projects? What technical areas will be most needed in the future?
Yeah, I'm gonna just weasel out of this one a little bit, but I'll give a few thoughts. You know, I'm a contracts guy. I'm not a researcher, but I think you can. Number one, we're happy to provide this information through the small business office, and this is part of the briefings they do. So they'll be able to provide what AFRL is looking to get out there in terms of this very question. But you know, I know one thing in particular that is of particular national interest is low cost lethality. You know, we kind of look at what's going on in terms of battlefields today, and you know, what can be done with drone technology, and that's an area that is going to become increasingly important for us, just to be able to do the kind of mass production of that sort of capability. In terms of the particulars of the very high tech, that that's going to be a little beyond for me to speculate on. So
I can take a try if you'd like.
By all means, Dan, please
Okay.
save me here.
Yeah. So I didn't bring a slide about this, but I'd be happy to talk to anybody, you know, one-on-one afterwards. But the Department of Defense and excuse me, and the Air Force have published roadmaps of technology needs for the coming years, and they talk about those in some of their solicitations for SBIR awards as well. So there are roadmaps that give at least a high-level indication of what technologies the Air Force and more broadly the Department of Defense will want, and you know, getting in tune with those is a great place to start.
Well, thank you, Dan. And thank you, Andy, as well. Again, if you have any additional questions in terms of the AFRL presentation, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. Andy will be here hanging out with us for the remainder of our session today. And next, I would like to introduce Mr. Dan Gisser with Tillerline Associates. Again, he has a plethora of research and expertise in Air Force Cyber Sitter, and he has a lot of great information for you all today as well. Dan?
Great. First of all, do you see the slide, just a cover slide looking right? Very good. Okay. So I'm Dan Gisser. Nice to meet you all. And I'm going to jump right in here. I can remember how to do that. There. Okay. Over the last few weeks, maybe a couple of months, this forum has had a few webinars that discuss the basics of the SBIR and STTR programs. So I'm not going to repeat all of that. And just as the one sentence quick reminder, SBIRs and STTRs provide non-dilutive U.S. government funds to small businesses to support research and development expenses. So that's all I'm going to say about the broad basics. Happy to talk offline about some of that if you need. There's lots of different agencies that have SBIR programs, but people don't quite realize how important the Air Force is to this whole thing. And if we look at the right, there's something a little bit more than $4 billion of SBIR awards in a year across all the agencies. The Air Force, the DAF, is almost a third of that, 31% of that. And then the rest of the Department of Defense, mainly the Navy and the Army, but other components as well, is another 32%. So the DoD is about 2/3 almost, and the Air Force is a huge chunk of all of that. And then we see the other large agencies, National Institutes of Health, Department of Energy, National Science Foundation, and NASA, and then there's a bunch of smaller ones too. In Ohio, we do actually even better than that with the Air Force. In Ohio on the left, we see that 44% of the SBIR awards that come to Ohio are from the Air Force. Maybe not surprising, we have Wright Pat here, there's a lot of connections to that. But that's just a huge piece of the SBIR program and points to how important the Air Force is to Ohio in the SBIR program. I don't think a lot of people quite grasp that. It almost seems funny to start with this question, but what is the Air Force? And that's a little bit more confusing than maybe it seems like it ought to be right off the top of our head. But the Air Force at a high level is the Department of the Air Force, the DAF, which is a part of the Department of Defense. Then there's two big pieces of the Air Force. There's the U.S. Air Force, or I sometimes think of it as the Air Force Air Force. It's what we think of as the Air Force. And then about 5 years or so ago, we created the second organization, the U.S. Space Force, which we spun out of the Air Force, and created its own organization. So the two of them together are the Department of the Air Force, sort of like the Navy includes both the Navy and the Marines. It's roughly analogous to that. And then if you want to sort of think about that in terms of the SBIR program, Department of Defense issues solicitations, typically broad agency announcements, as Andy was talking about, for SBIR-STTRs. The Department of the Air Force participates in those solicitations, and typically alongside the Army and the Navy. And within that, both the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Space Force participate in the SBIR program. And they issue topics that they want research done for. Most of the time, those topics are specifically either for the U.S. Air Force or for the Space Force. Occasionally, they're for both, where it overlaps. Andy talked about the Air Force Research Lab, which is an organization with many facilities around the world. And it serves both the Air Force and the Space Force, and is really the R&D piece of the Air Force. Within that, there's two organizations called AFWorks and SpaceWorks for the Air Force and Space Force, respectively. And among other things, AFWorks and SpaceWorks manage the SBIR programs for the Air Force and the Space Force. So that's kind of the flow chart of all of this, a little bit of vocabulary. But in the end, what we have is SBIR programs for the Air Force and Space Force, and there's the organizational way of thinking about it. In general, and this is true across all agencies, right? The SBIR program, and you've seen this in the other webinars, there's a phase 1 proposal and award, followed by a phase 2 proposal and award is the typical flow. You can sometimes do a direct to phase 2, where you've kind of already done the equivalent phase 1 work. That's also true in the Air Force. What's unique to the Air Force is the stuff in yellow on the right, TAC-FI and STRAT-FI. And these come after a phase 2 or a direct to phase 2, and are additional funding, sort of like a second phase 2 award, but can be with a lot more dollars attached for those technologies that really need more time and quite a bit more money to eventually bring to transition or commercialization. TAC-FI and STRAT-FI are almost the same as each other. TAC-FI is kind of the smaller dollar amounts and STRAT-FI is the larger. But these are roughly the size of a phase 2 award on the low end, $375,000, up to $15 million for a large STRAT-FI. So big money here for 1 to 4 years of continued R&D work. and engineering and maybe prototyping and testing. One big caveat for both of these is that they require matching funds from industry and or other government agencies, depending on the particular program. And as with any other SBIR-STTR, once you're in the system and had a phase 1 or a phase 2 or a TAC-FI, STRAT-FI, you can transition straight to a phase 3 award, which is essentially a supply agreement. It's unusual for it to go straight from phase 1, but it does happen from time to time. Something else unique about the Air Force's SBIR program is it's got a few different kinds of topics. There's focus topics, and we'll talk more about all these going on. And there's open topics, and then more recently we have in between focused open topics. So I'll spend a little bit of time talking about each one of these because this is unique to the Air Force. Focus topics are narrow. The Air Force tells you, and here I'm using Air Force to be Air Force or Space Force, tells you what the problem they have is and what the and sort of outlines what the solution needs to be. But you get to propose the technical plan and how you do it. And so here's a bunch of titles from the last 6 months or so. AI, ML, generated decoy networks, right? They're telling you what this is. Thermoplastic composite panel repair and restoration. Here's a material science one. Vertical beta gallium oxide device development for extreme environment power converters. You're really getting at power management in hard spaces. Direct digital to millimeter wave data converter development and modeling, so communications. A cockpit compatible eye tracking system. That makes some sense for the Air Force. Robust conformal RF sensors. And then a couple from the Space Force, obviously. Space-based environmental monitoring in very low Earth orbit, and magnetically clean remote sensing satellite for very low Earth orbit mapping mission. So there's 8 of those. And there's going to be dozens and dozens and dozens of topics like these, all very narrow and focused. And the Air Force knows what they want, and they tell you and they ask you to provide a solution. Often they'll fund 2 or 3 for each of these topics. This is really nice, these topics. And if you can meet these, you should go ahead and propose, because the Air Force is telling you the problem. There's probably not that many companies that can meet it. And if you succeed and do a project and develop a good technology for it, you've got an eager customer on the other end. So this has a nice chance of turning into a phase 3 project. That's the focus topics. And I should say, these are the titles. When you get into a solicitation, there's going to be probably 2 pages, maybe 3, of detailed explanation of what they want. But you can look at any one of these titles and immediately say, yeah, that one's interesting to me, and those 7 I don't know anything about. So you can scan through these really fast. Then there's the open and then the focused open topics. I'm going to start with the open topic on the left on the green. These have been around for about 5 or 6 years. Something really new that the Air Force introduced and no one else has copied yet. And so the title of these is Innovative, Defense-Related, Dual-Purpose Technologies or Solutions with a Clear Air Force Stakeholder Need. So let's parse that a little bit. Dual purpose means that the technology will eventually have application in the Air Force, but it's also got to have application somewhere else, either in the commercial sector or elsewhere in the government or defense industry, or all of the above is great. So that's what dual purpose is. And so the technology itself has to be dual purpose, not the end product. The end product is going to have to be customized for the Air Force and different from whatever the commercial solution is. So this is not a commercial off-the-shelf technology, but it's a commercial off-the-shelf product or service. It's an underlying technology that's going to be customized separately for the Air Force because of their unique needs. And there's almost always unique Air Force needs from what the other customers might need. This is wide open, right? Almost any dual-use technology that you think might be relevant to the Air Force could be a candidate. And that includes an awful lot of things. These have been going on, as I said, for about 5 or 6 years. Phase 1 awards are really interesting. Unlike anything else in the SBIR program, they're small 3-month projects, typically for about $75,000 to $100,000. So really small in both the budget and time frame. Since the Air Force doesn't know what you're going to propose, they don't know if they need it. And so the phase one project is, let's figure out if the Air Force is interested at all. Are there some people or units in the Air Force that say, yeah, you're outlining a technology that we want, and maybe we're outlining a path to getting this thing developed for the Air Force. So the phase one project is really customer discovery. It's very little, if any at all, technology development. And then in phase two, or the direct to phase two, if you're already there, that looks more like a regular phase two SBIR project. It's a year or two, $1 million plus, to do technology development. The prerequisite for submitting a phase two or a direct to phase two proposal in this open topic is getting agreement from some people in the Air Force that they think there's promise in your idea and that they're interested in the result. And that takes the form of a customer memorandum. That's a heavy lift. Getting that customer memorandum is hard. You really have to build relationships, as Andy was talking about, with the folks who are going to be your customers, points of contact in the Air Force, get them to agree on a project plan, and support you with a phase two proposal. This program has been around. The most recent phase one topic just closed about a week ago. And it's been really unique and very popular over the years. I think probably 1,000 people submitted proposals last week for the phase ones, and they'll probably fund about 300 of them. That's the plan. That's the open topic. Switching to the right and the yellow, the focused open topic, this is brand new, so I'm speculating a little bit about where this is going to go. And there have only been 2 examples so far. The first one, actually the second one I listed, is innovative defense-related dual-purpose airmen health and medical technologies or solutions with the clear Air Force need. And then the one on top was just last month, dual-purpose manufacturing technology solutions. So identical language is in the green on the left, except we've inserted that boundary, manufacturing technologies or health and medical technologies. So that's why it's sort of it's open, but within a technology realm. So far, both of those were direct to phase two opportunities. So we don't have any experience yet with phase one or follow-on phase two. So I don't know how that's going to play out, or if it will play out. At least in the second one of those, the most recent, the manufacturing one, they've simplified that customer memorandum process and created a customer engagement memorandum. You only need one sponsor, not several, as in the open topic, and the Air Force helped people find that sponsor. So this is new. We'll see what happens next, but I expect to see more focused open topics over the coming months and year, and in other fields, but I don't know what they're going to be yet. Time-wise, getting in with the calendar is really hard, but getting much easier. If you've been paying attention to the Department of Defense SBIR program, the timing and when solicitations are announced and closed has been chaos for the last couple of years. It's just gotten better, and sort of starting now, it's going to be pretty smooth, I think. New topics are going to be published the first Wednesday of every month. So August 6th, we got a few. September 3rd, we're going to get a few. That's in the middle there. And then beginning with new fiscal year, October 1st, November 5th, etc. And so we'll see topics released every Wednesday of the first Wednesday of the month. And then proposals are due 7 weeks later, also on a Wednesday. They give us 2 extra weeks over the holidays, but otherwise it's 7 weeks later. So that's a short time frame for all of these. Probably Air Force will participate in most of these, but not all. But probably 2/3 of these dates, and then the Army and Navy, et cetera, will participate in the others. I would recommend that you get on this listserv at the DoD's SBIR website, DSIP, and there's the link for it. And you'll get announcements and email about these as well. Real fast, this is what a basic solicitation looks like. This too is changing a little bit, but you get they're big, long, dense legal documents. I'm sure Andy is used to reading them. And but the first page is deadlines, and there's a table of contents with the key sections: program description, are you eligible, do you have your certifications like SAM, how to write a good proposal, what are the evaluation criteria, and then a bunch more rules and stuff followed on. In this case, there's about 25 pages of that, and then 400 plus pages of details from the Army and the Navy and the Air Force. Most of that is the details of the topics and some more rules. Very recently, and I think this will continue, they've been publishing those Air Force specific pieces and Navy specific pieces as a separate document from the overall DoD one, but it's still structured much the same. Proposals have a common structure. The Department of Defense calls the chapters of proposal volumes, and you submit those on that website, DSIP. The key parts are the technical volume, which is what probably you think of as the proposal or the white paper. It's usually 10 to 30 pages. It's a technical document mostly. The key pieces are what's the problem and opportunity? What are you going to try to do? What's your project plan? What are the objectives and statement of work? What else has been done by you and others? And what are you going to do next after you finish this project? How are you going to commercialize this? And tell us about your team and your people. And then there's a budget called cost volume and some supporting documents, which can be a lot or a few depending on the solicitation. One caution is the whole SBIR program is governed by law, and it's typically reauthorized every 3 years by Congress and the president. As it happens, we're coming on the end of that cycle. The current authorization expires at the end of the fiscal year on September 30th. So Congress must, I put must in quotes, I can't tell Congress what to do, but must reauthorize the SBIR program in October if we want this to continue. I am confident that they will. They always do. They like it a lot. It may be slow. It may be delayed. It may be delayed by a few months, which could throw the whole SBIR program into chaos in the fourth quarter. They will undoubtedly make some changes around the edges, but I don't think the big picture pieces will change much. And so we'll see what happens there. There are bills floating around in Congress right now to get this reauthorized. And so if you want to learn more about what's likely to happen, you can read those. Just a reminder, you probably know this from your previous, but what does an SBIR fund? It funds research expenses, and mostly that's salaries, supplies, some overhead, subcontractors, university perhaps, travel for the project, maybe some equipment rental. And you are a small business. You are in business to make money. That is your primary purpose in life. And the government recognizes that, and you are entitled to a profit called fee in government speak. Then just one slide about foci, and you may know more about this than I do, but foreign ownership and controls become a much bigger concern in the Department of Defense, and that's carrying over into the SBIR program as well. The DoD is concerned when a foreign person or entity has the power to direct or decide matters affecting the business's management or operations. That's what foreign ownership and control is. In a way, that sounds scarier than it is, because foreign in this context only refers to countries of concern. And there's only 4 of them right now: China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran. So if you have strong contacts and connections with those, we have to pay attention. And you have to disclose it as part of your proposal. In my experience, that's not been a huge ordeal. I haven't seen that many SBIR companies that really have strong connections with these countries. So it's been a check the box thing so far. I do expect that this is likely to get tightened up with the new authorization, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if I may.
Yeah, please.
You're exactly right, Dan. It is over the past 18 months been a enormous focus area for us. I would agree with you that in the SBIR world, less of a concern. But for us, I'll just say that upfront, pre-award S&T protection, science and technology protection is a big area of focus. We're looking at how, from a solicitation and award perspective, to overcome issues before they even start.
Great.
And, that involves, looking into the particulars of the people you're putting forward for research and R&D programs.
Thank you. And I believe that we, in this forum, either had or are about to have a whole session on FOSI.
You are right, Dan, on August 27th. So in just a few weeks, we will have one of the directors at the Defense Security Clearance Agency talk to us about FOCI.
Great. Just one more slide, places to get started and get some help. 4 of them here. One of them is DSIP, which is the website for all things SBIR for the Department of Defense, and there's the link. And you should probably just register and create an account up in the blue box on top. And a little bit further down on this page, I didn't print the whole thing, but you can get on their email distribution list. Second on the right is the AFWorks website, because they manage the SBIR program for the Air Force. And Andy gave you that site as well, and there's a screenshot of it. Third and fourth is people, the Apex accelerators, and I work with them all the time, and they're great. We're really lucky in Ohio to have super Apex accelerators, and I work with them constantly. And so call me, talk to me. Happy to help you sort of learn your way around the Air Force and really all the other SBIR programs as well. I work with all of them quite a bit. And I'll leave it there, and I'm happy to stick around and try to answer a few questions if we can.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. It looks like we do have one question popped up in the chat here. You talked about how Ohio is a huge proponent of this Sitter program. And do you have any idea how many Ohio companies apply for Air Force Cyber Phase 1 specifically every year and like don't get funding?
It's hard to know that, right? There's no public data on how many apply. What's available is how many get funded and who they are. I'm gonna go back to I don't remember if I put it here. In Ohio, there were 230 awards a year. That probably represents something like 150 companies because people get more than one. We could look that up and calculate it. I would guess that means that something like 600 or 700 apply, different companies. But I don't, there's no way of actually knowing that I know about.
Noted. Thank you. Let's see, looking to see if anything else popped into the chat. Not at this exact time, but I know that we will be able to share this information from both slide decks with you, and in those will be Chanel Fultz, Deputy Director of AFRL, as well as Dan Gisser's contact information on his slide deck. So I would really encourage you guys to reach out to those subject matter experts. Andy, and thank you as well for your expertise that you've been able to provide to this presentation here. Before we go, I do want to plug for you all next week's presentation. If you enjoyed what you heard today about the Air Force, I think you'll really benefit from the Homeland Security representative that we'll have next week, the actually director of HS Works, as it called. So it's an innovation hub related to Homeland Security. He will be here to provide some information similar to what you heard today, as well as a few Ohio small businesses who've engaged with Homeland Security and HS Works to show kind of from their perspective what that looks like. Just drop that registration link for you all in the chat as well. And you'll receive an email here with both Dan Gisser and Andy's and Chanel Fultz's information as well. Thank you all for joining us this week. And Dan and Andy, thank you so much for the information that you both were able to provide. I hope that everyone else enjoys the rest of their morning.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.